Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of the Fitness Devil podcast. Today we got Patrick Umphrey on to talk about his training group, Eat, Train, and Progress. So stick around and enjoy. Thank you.
Shut up and sit down.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, Patrick Umphrey, to the Fitness Devil podcast. Guys, one of my biggest pet peeves is podcasts that have long, drawn-out intros, so let's jump right in. So Patrick is the creator of Eat, Train, and Progress. That's a Facebook group that he uses as a vehicle to give people a lot of great coaching information. He's himself an online coach, and he actually is a close-up magician, which we're going to get him to tell us about. So, Patrick, it's actually great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you did a really wonderful podcast with Andy Morgan recently, kind of set a high bar for us. So we didn't want to make it a blatant repeat, but can you at least tell our listeners a little bit about you and introduce yourself with the least humility possible?
With the least humility possible. That's awesome. Well, you already pretty much covered it. My name's Patrick. I am an online coach. I run Eat, Train, Progress, the Facebook group. It's also my brand name for my coaching company. And I work with a variety of different individuals, different goal sets. I do have a fair amount of competitive powerlifters who I coach. I particularly enjoy working with that demographic. And I also have several people who would just fall into the kind of general population category, people who are just trying to maybe lose some weight, get in shape, improve their habits, things of that nature. I'm also a close-up magician. I've been performing close-up magic for about 20 years or so. And I perform 2 to 3 times per week at a local venue out at the Mall of America. And then corporations just hire me to show up at their events and perform some magic. So that's what I do. That's who I am. I'm also a father. I've got 2 children. Isaiah is 6 years old, and my daughter Audrey is 3, and I love it.
And a dog, and a new puppy,
and a dog named Sophie. Yeah, 8 or 9 month old golden doodle.
Oh, nice! I got a little 20-pound golden doodle napping right here. So
sweet.
Yeah, maybe they'll be friends one day. To preface this, are you a comic book fan at all?
I'm not a comic book fan. I don't like. I think that comics are fantastic. I love all the movies that they've made from comic book characters, but I just never got into reading comics as a kid. So no, I'm not really.
But Tony Stark is in Spider-Man.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Intersection between magician, fitness professional is going to seem, I don't want to say weird, unique to most people listening.
That's weird.
How do you intertwine magic and fitness? And I want to just preface this with Tony Stark is kind of out in the open. He's like the Iron Man, but everyone knows he's Iron Man. It's Tony Stark. And then Spider-Man kind of hides who he is. Which one are you in terms of your magicianship, your coaching? Which one are you? And explain it.
I wouldn't say that I'm one or the other. I would say that they are things that I do. And I think that they, don't necessarily, I guess I don't really think of it in terms of part of my identity as much as I think of it as things that I'm passionate about that I really enjoy doing. As far as the intersection, sorry if you heard that notification on my computer there. As far as the intersection between magic and coaching, this is something I've been challenged to think about in the past, and I don't really have any fantastic, well-defined answer, but I do think there are a lot of intersections in that both of them require varying degrees of understanding people, and they both require, since I perform up close, it's an interactive form of magic, so I am, speaking with people directly, and rather than like stage magic where you're up on a stage and everyone is watching you do something, I am involving people, and I'm even to the point with close-up magic, you're choreographing things so that you know exactly where their eyes are going to be directed, and hopefully what they might be thinking about what you're doing. And so I just think both of them require a certain set of interpersonal skills that make you a lot better at what you're doing if you happen to have those skills and have that social awareness.
I was going to say, you could probably go even cooler with that. I'm just throwing out some ideas. You can make some pretty cool informative YouTube videos. Like freaking talk about nutrition to pull out like a magic trick and be like, yeah.
I've thought about trying to integrate that in terms of, is there a way during my close-up magic to talk about fitness? But the problem with that, like, I think it's a legitimate idea if I could do it correctly. I think the problem with that can sometimes happen where you end up watering down the magic in order to try to incorporate the message that you're trying to incorporate. Doesn't always happen. I've seen it done well in some examples, but
I think too,
with other things, not with fitness.
You also run into the problem where a lot of time, I'm sure people who are there to be entertained kind of want to shut their brains off and just enjoy the experience. And if it comes with this sort of stressful life message and a reminder of all the shit they're not doing right, that can taint the experience of enjoying the magic. So I can see where two of those things intertwining the fitness within it might not work as well with the magic.
I would go the other way. I would impose magic on the fitness crowd.
That I think works. Yeah.
On YouTube. Well, I don't know. I'm just giving you ideas, but have you ever thought about that?
I'd be cueing someone on a squat and be like, look, you need to push your knees out. Oh my God, a rabbit. Where did that come from?
Exactly.
Just turning Twinkies into bananas and shit.
It at least make stuff go viral on the internet. At the very least, especially with your following. They'd be like, what the fuck?
Right.
All right. So for a lot of people that are listening, they don't know that Patrick and I actually met in Kansas City in May, and that was actually really cool. Just like our recent guests, Sohee Lee, Jay Ashman, Carter Good. And I kind of wanted to share a little bit about what that community is like. There's this event that happens in Kansas City called a Fitness Summit every year. I think it's 17 years now, something like that. And so that was an event that blew me away this year. So again, a lot of our clients, a lot of our listeners wouldn't really have an appreciation for what that is. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about that community within our industry and how it actually trickles down to benefit them in the end, how it improves all of us?
I think that's a great question. And first, I want to talk about meeting you, because I have to mention that we all got a good kick out of this, because Andrew is a bit gingery, but he's also freaking massive and just jacked to the gills. And I'm like $180 soaking wet, but I'm also a ginger. And so I was joking that it's like a before and after picture of like he's what happens if I would actually lift weights or something. So I tried to not stand next to Andrew as much as I could, so I didn't look just tiny by comparison. But back to your original question, I think that it's a fantastic event, and I think that for listeners who might not be aware, it is a series of lectures put on by some of the top fitness professionals, where they basically present slides and present their case for whatever it is that they want to talk about. It's very educational, and it's also a very good networking event where fitness professionals can network with each other. Very good friendships are formed. Very good information is exchanged. It has actually, I think, helped me a lot by motivating me to advance both my business practices and just educating me on potential changes to how I might coach people and the information that I have. And I think it trickles down, because in the online fitness community, it's very large. Like, there are thousands of people networked together, but there's not thousands of people that go to attend this event. And so you might only have, 50 to 100. I don't know what the turnout is. We could probably look at the numbers.
It was creeping up near about 200, I think, this past year.
Okay. Yeah. So I undershot that. But if you figure that there's a couple hundred fitness professionals, well, they are all going to take something that they've learned, and that's going to get applied, and that information is going to get spread. And I do think that other people will benefit from that.
Well, even as much as we were talking before the show, you had Dean Somerset, a local trainer here, but also like freaking huge. He's a huge in the fitness world, and he worked on you, and there's no way you didn't take something away from that. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I scheduled a session with Dean. I like Dean a lot. He's one of my favorite guys in the industry. And I had a one-on-one session with him because I have a hip issue that is almost 100% now. And I just wanted him to both take a look at it and then talk me through a few things. And he jammed his thumb into my adductor so hard that I almost started crying. And what was funny is that I was wincing and just making these horrible noises about how bad this thing hurt, and he just would not let up. But then when he got done, he goes, "Hey, your pain tolerance is pretty good." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I was screaming like a baby the whole time. What do you mean my pain tolerance is good? So
it's the ginger myth.
I don't know, man. It was
actually, there's some truth to that.
Quite painful, but I definitely saw an improvement to mobility immediately afterwards. So it was good stuff.
It's funny on that too. I don't know. I saw him too, and he's pretty much doing the same thing. He's like, just breathe normally. Like, man, stop fucking saying that. Like, how are you supposed to breathe?
Yeah.
Like,
you breathe normally with a 250-pound Canadian sitting on you. Let's see you do that.
Yeah, you need to get him back.
Anyone who's been listening to this from the very beginning or well, they know that Dean Somerset was our lead episode, and he's a local guy here, and he was great enough to come on with us. And he's a good friend of ours. So we've been lucky to be around him a whole lot and learn a ton from him. He's going to return in future a whole bunch of times. So if you're a newer listener, maybe you're one of Patrick's Eat, Train, Progress people, guys. Well, first of all, we were hoping you'll subscribe to the podcast because we're working really hard on doing something great. But go back into the older episodes and listen to the one that Dean does, because Dean is unbelievable. And then just check out some of the other stuff we got coming up. Or
he's basically saying, stop listening to Patrick right now. Turn this off. This is the other shit. There's nothing good about Patrick. So on that, your big thing, I don't want to say big thing, but you create and manage a very large Facebook group called Eat, Train, Progress.
Yeah.
Describe its original purpose and kind of, could you imagine it was gotten, that doesn't make any sense. Could you imagine it would have got as big as it has? It's about 14,000 right now, just for a reference for some, that's ridiculous in terms of a small group where everyone comments and participates. So kind of just answer that and let us know.
Yeah. So first, I'll answer the second question first. I'm baffled that it's gotten as big as it has. I sit there every day and I actually kind of laugh like, what the hell? Like, how did this happen? So it's pretty crazy, especially considering that the Facebook group did not start until August of 2016. And so that group has only been active for about, a little over a year.
Didn't realize
and it's picked up to, it'll turn 14,000 this week, most likely, because we're at 13,900 something. And so as far as how it originated, I actually kind of got my start with coaching in the MyFitnessPal forums. And I still go there occasionally, but not nearly as often because I'm so busy as it is now. But I started Eat, Train, Progress with a friend of mine who is now also a client. Her name is Sarah. And her and I met on MyFitnessPal. We shared many of the same philosophies. And we both started getting a lot of message requests, in our inboxes on MyFitnessPal of people just asking us for advice, asking our opinion on things. So we decided, let's make a forum group in MyFitnessPal, because the forum software allows you to create your own group and manage it.
Nice.
And so we created Eat, Train, Progress in the MyFitnessPal forums. And after probably 2 to 3 years of doing that, we got up to there's something like 10,000 members in there at one point. And that's actually also how I started coaching, in that I started it through those forums. I ended up doing a coaching platform where I gave it away for free. That's how I started doing it on Skype. And so anyway, not to go way deep into it, it really started on MyFitnessPal. And then eventually I decided, there's probably a better social media platform for this, and I could probably start a second one. So I started a page on Facebook called Eat, Train, Progress. That is also still there. There's about 2,000 people in that. And then after a couple of years of that, I went, I like my page, but a group would be a much better way to conduct threads and to promote interaction.
Yeah.
And so in August of 2016, I created the Eat, Train, Progress group, and that is the one that is now at almost 14,000 and pretty crazy.
Oh, and there's interaction, like almost to the point where I'm like, I might have turned off my notifications. Like, there's a lot of fucking interaction. Like, that's awesome, but it's crazy.
It's very active. Yep.
If anyone listening to this who, again, already isn't a part of this stuff, first of all, go search it, check it out. It's a really great place for pretty much almost anything within reason goes to talk about fitness, nutrition. If you want to post questions, if you want to interact with what's already going on, or just hang out and creep and follow it. It's a pretty amazing experience. I tend to be a bit more of a quiet follower. Every once in a while, I'll touch in on something, but Patrick's got such a good handle on it that I don't work to steal his thunder on it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And with that being said, it's one of those things. Oh, sorry, my headphones are going on. It's one of those things where like, yeah, it's hard to comment on it because like there's like 30 comments in 5 minutes on most of those posts. It's like things can get lost, and that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. And I guess agree. How do you manage that?
Well, I am very fortunate that I have 3 of my clients who have volunteered as moderators, and they are absolutely fantastic, and I could not do it without their help. And I am incredibly thankful for all of the things that they do. We have a private mod chat. One of them even keeps a spreadsheet where she has like a shit list of like people that are like, we need to watch these people.
You should post it. You should post it.
No, but we are working. We might do something of like a Hall of Fame of the people that we've booted that have acted like the biggest douchebags. Like we're working on something like that, but I don't know if that'll ever get published. So you might have to edit that out, actually. I don't know that I want people knowing that I just said that, but
we'll figure it out.
We'll see. We'll chat about it after. Awesome. That might get revealed to the world. So
that's fine.
How has the experience been running such a great vehicle to help people?
It's kind of been crazy, and I say that because it's happened so fast that I'm in disbelief, like looking at how big this group has gotten. Like I'm like, what? Like, how did this happen? So, the experience has mostly been one of kind of shock, but I try to remind myself that even though fitness and online coaching is my career, I still pursue this as a means of like self-fulfillment and fun in addition to that. And so when group things start to stress me out, I at least attempt to remind myself the reasons that I got into this and to try not to let things like that ruin my day or my mood or things like that. So like just when things go sour in the group, which can happen.
Well, you've mentioned a lot that like this is kind of all crazy and it happened so fast. Was there some sort of preparation for this though? Like you had to have made this thinking like, hey, if this becomes big, this will happen. Like, did you ever anticipate at least that it could get that big based on your vision?
No, I don't think I did anticipate that. I think that I approached this like, hey, I'm going to try to build this group.
Yeah.
Let's hope that it can get big, and let's hope that this can become an outlet for me to express my opinions on things, give people what I think is good information, promote people who I think are other great people in the industry who I want to promote, and also potentially be a source of income for me through means of picking up clients for my coaching. And so that's really all I approach this with, never with the thought that I'm going to be in the 5 figures in terms of like number of people. And then I also think that I was a little underprepared understanding how much moderation a group like that could require.
You've got, I remember again, going back to Andy's podcast, which guys, if you want to hear more about Patrick, go check that out too. Andy Morgan does a really good podcast, and I'm all about promoting other people like what you just said. But you talked about you had the team of moderators, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the bullshit that you have to deal with. But I also want to touch on the point too. What you just described, the group is kind of like, actually very much like what Dina and I are doing with this podcast. We're not making any money off this stuff directly. This is really a vehicle to, it's fun. This is a passion project. We're actually having a blast doing this. It's cool to get you on here to catch up. And when we had Jay Ashman on here, that was an incredible laugh. And Mike Gerzertel, wait till you guys hear this episode.
He's fucked.
It's so damn funny. Awesome. It's a great one. But we also get to share you with the people that we know, or our audience, and we'll connect more people. We get to share Dean Somerset with people. We get to share Jay Ashman with people, and Dr. Mike, and more of the cool guests that we got coming up. So it's a great way to push all of these other incredibly professional people in front of people, and to get them to maybe stop listening to some of the YouTube Muppets that you see.
Jillian Michaels, man.
Your Jillian Michaels, or your Elliot Hulse, like having someone digging into his groin as he's like, just some of the weird shit that you see on there that I think people maybe need to start sidestepping.
I think it's awesome that you mentioned Elliot.
Man, he's gonna like hear our little podcast and like text you like, you fucker.
Well, is it Elgin Intensity loves to take the piss out of Elliot, and Elliot loves the sound of his own voice. And Elliot made a whole bunch of videos, like long, drawn out diatribes about Elgin. Of course, that's just feeding Elgin, because Elgin's a troll and just loves taking shots at the people that he thinks are jackasses in the industry. And
What do you think about him, Patrick?
The thing is, like, I've heard everyone talk about how his training information is really good. I recall seeing some videos on just like lifting technique that I thought were great. But the two things that just made me fucking cringe, one of them that he actually removed because of all the backlash, at least I think he removed this. It was a video that basically was slanted against using research to form opinions about training. But in the video, he clearly demonstrated a complete and utter lack of understanding of how research works and what the scientific process does. And it was just this butchering of it to the point where it was an embarrassment. And, to be clear, obviously, we very much value experience and anecdote. They are important parts of the process. We don't take single studies and let it decide, and make absolute statements about it and stuff like that. But he was just basically completely attempting to shit on science, and it really made himself look like a dumbass in the process, in my opinion. Well, and then the other thing was that he apparently sent out an email that someone screenshotted and posted on Facebook, where he basically admitted to being an anti-vaxxer, and he posted a bunch of Mercola articles as support for being against vaccines, and he sent this out to his email list, and that's just like, oh my god!
Especially for a smart guy, like I'm gonna say smart because he built the YouTube following. Like he's doing well, and he's gonna do something stupid like that shit. Like, use your brain, man.
Well, Cully Muscle
he's doing really well, and I would never knock his marketing ability. No. I'm not gonna knock his training knowledge either, because I've only seen a few of his things, and they struck me as at least decent. I don't recall seeing any training videos where I went, well, this guy's an idiot. Yeah. Now, haven't seen a lot of his stuff, but it's these other things where I'm just like, oh god.
Oh, you can formulate opinion on an anti-vaxxer, puts that in an email list, hoping that it's not going to get out there. Like, that's a bad decision.
I agree.
Like those are probably two realms. We should just like James fell on him. James would lose his mind about that shit.
Oh yeah. I love James.
Yeah, James is the best. I'm actually really hoping we can get him on here at some point. I know he's writing a book right now, so he's sort of sequestered, but he would make one hell of a fiery guest for this sort of thing.
Oh yeah, he would. He's a good dude too. I roomed with him at this last fitness summit. He was my roommate, and I got a chance to chat with him quite a bit. And he's a really genuine dude.
Yeah,
good guy.
I got fortunate to be able to spend some one-on-one time chatting with him too, and just so awesome. Smart. He tends to have some very strong views about certain things, and he's not really.
He totally does.
He's not really interested in some of the people who have the opposing side of that point of view.
No
but
politics, Andrew.
We're not going there.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. You're an online coach. Describe that online coaching experience, and what are some misconceptions people hold about online coaching versus in-person coaching?
That's a great question. So as far as misconceptions, I'm going to tackle that one first.
Absolutely.
Here's one that I get a lot that I think comes from people who just have never done or have never heard of online coaching or online personal training. The biggest misconception, I think, that I've encountered, people assume that if you're an online personal trainer, you are on Skype with someone watching them do their workout, and you are like commenting on their workout, counting their reps, or instructing them, because that's their perception of what a personal trainer is and what a personal trainer does, because that's all they know, because that's either what their experience is or what they've heard of. And so they apply that to online thinking that that's how it works. And to me, as if you're an online coach and you've not encountered this perception, it might sound funny, because we know that that's really not what we do. At least the majority of us don't. And but I really think that that's what the perception of it is.
Well, and that's, yeah, I guess if you don't know, like, I guess some of the type A's and the competitive powerlifters, they kind of know better. But like, yeah, the greater audience probably doesn't have that clue at all.
Well, of course. Yeah. And that's normal. Like, I think they're taking what they know personal training to be, and they're assuming that, that must be how it works if you do it online, because I guess that's probably the most intuitive thought that someone could have on that.
Well, and so because you're doing a lot of that, describe what the actual online coaching experience is, at least from your perspective and what you bring to the table.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's just fantastic. The way that I conduct my coaching is that I meet with my clients on Skype, typically every other week. It's about a 30-minute call, and I am asking them how they're feeling. That's the first thing I ask them. I'm talking to them about progress that they are making. I'm talking to them about struggles that they're having. And then I'm also, in addition to getting those subjective measures from them, and in addition to building the relationship with them in order to, have the trust to have those conversations, I'm also looking at objective measures. And so I'll have data on perhaps their body weight, if that's one of their goals. I'll have data on their calorie intake. I might have data on their step counts. I'll have data on their training program, which I design. And so I will integrate those subjective measures of feeling and their struggles and their successes with what the data tells me. And through those two things, combining those things, I will assist them in coming up with the next course of action or the next steps in order to bring them closer to their goals.
Well, that's a huge point. Even just that last point of you're there to assist them. Like, you're not walking them through every single thing they're doing, because it's impossible. And you're not on Skype doing this every single hour of the day. Like, you're basically there as an assistant to get them to their goals. And I think that's a huge point to highlight.
And I also think that autonomy is a really important thing, in that it's not really my style to be like a dictator. It's more my style to try to help people find reasonable solutions. I'm getting their feedback when I suggest something. I'm not saying, hey, we have to do this next, and so here's how I'm changing your program. Go do it. It's going to be, or I'm not going to say, hey, you need to cut that serving of potatoes in half because we need to do this or that. I'm just going to have a conversation, suggest usually multiple alternatives if we're trying to get from point A to point B, and get their feedback to see what they think of it and if they think that it's a reasonable solution. And, it's a dialogue, and it's a collaborative effort. It is not I tell you this and you do it.
Ultimately, the end, you're the one you're presenting options, what have you, but they're the ones making the choices. And I think we all know this. When the client is the one who makes the choice, they're a lot more likely to be very successful in their efforts when it's them doing that. I mentioned this a little bit with Carter Good's episode, excuse me, where with the online coaching process, a lot of times you're there almost kind of all the time. They can email you, they can message you, and you're going to respond and interact sort of as they need support. Whereas, unfortunately, a lot of times at personal trainers in person, it's just the hour, and then the trainers don't really facilitate any or much interaction outside of it. So oftentimes I feel like good online coaches can provide a better, broader experience that is more supportive than even sometimes the in-person experience can be like, assuming the coach chooses that route.
I think that's probably accurate. I also think that it's a situation where some of the in-person trainers, some of them probably do make efforts to encourage contact outside of what happens during the session. I just think that that's probably not the expectation. And so I think that, maybe they could do a better job by trying to incorporate some of that. I don't know.
Well, and even I'm just dealing with certain people asking me certain questions online, and I should totally sell in-person training because that's what we do. But like, there is something that is lost, and I guess we're talking about nutrition, but in terms of like the physical fitness aspect of it, people can do shit wrong. So you could tell them, hey, I'll use a basic example, do squats. Like, that's in your program, 4 sets of 10, whatever the hell it is. And they do something that doesn't look like a squat, but they did it in the program and it misses the point. And that's kind of where that personal touch really does come in handy, which you can't do I guess you could do it online, but it's way more effective in person.
Yeah, I think that one major difference, in my opinion, is that improving someone's technique or teaching them how to execute a technique is far more efficient in person, because you can execute a greater number of changes in a short period of time. Whereas doing it online, it's typically request that they make a certain change, make sure they understand it, have them shoot a video, send it to you, you evaluate it. Sometimes you evaluate it with them, and then you give them another change. And so, yeah, I think that in person, it's certainly way more efficient. And then there's also the sense of touch that you can use in person if done, obviously, carefully.
You put I was going to say you could put their thumb in their adductor.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that'll make them really like you. But yeah, you can, there's tactile sensations that you can use that could help someone with cueing or help someone execute a certain technique that you obviously can't use online. And so that would be another difference worth noting. But I also do think that online coaching still can be quite effective for improving technique. I know that with many of my powerlifting clients, we've been able to make significant progress on their execution through the medium of online coaching. The ones that tend to do the best are the ones that just submit frequent videos where, I might get a couple times a week. They either tag me on Instagram or put videos in their folder and I take a look at them and we just keep refining and refining. And so it still is less efficient than in person, but it can still be effective online.
And this is this might seem like an obvious answer, but which one do you prefer? Like, do you prefer in-person coaching? Like, I know online coaching is larger reach and there's the benefits, but which one do you actually prefer for you?
I prefer making my living as an online coach. I absolutely love it. I'm very passionate about what I do. I did train people in a gym setting for a while, and I enjoy the online coaching far more. However, if I'm in a situation where, for example, I've had clients where I coach at meets. I've had a couple clients fly me out to their location, so I'm coaching them at a meet, and we might get a session in at a gym, and I'm working with an online client in person, and man, that's a blast. That is so fun. So I think I prefer online more, but I definitely enjoy working with my online clients in person on the rare chance that I, have the opportunity to do so, because it just feels like we can get so much done in such a short period of time. And it's nice to see their faces and see them actually squat rather than looking at a video.
Awesome. Now let's turn this around to you and your own fitness. I was hoping you'd tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, your own fitness progress, and your thoughts on trainers and keeping us a priority for our own fitness, to keep ourselves visually in shape, what your thoughts are on that, and just taking care of ourselves.
That's a great question. Let's talk about the trainer piece first, since I'm incredibly opinionated. Let
it rip.
Yeah. So, and I have to acknowledge first that I'm well aware that my opinion is not a popular one on this particular topic, but it's still my opinion. I think that in many cases, the people who think that trainers need to look jacked and quote, look the part, I think the people that tend to be the loudest mouths on that opinion are other personal trainers who are in shape. And I feel like it's kind of a sharp stick to poke at trainers who aren't in shape. Not in all cases. So I don't mean to say that everyone with that opinion is using it as this sharp stick to poke people with. I just get the impression that many times that's how it comes across. Mm-hmm. I think that personal trainers are not under any obligation to look a certain way. And I also think that what you look like is not a reflection of what you know. I think that the role of a good trainer or coach is to get results in other people and to do it in a safe manner, an effective manner, and hopefully in a manner that doesn't cause any extra amount of additional stresses towards the client. So, for example, you might have two coaches who can get a bodybuilder in great shape, but one of them might feel like shit the whole time, and the other one might feel pretty good about it because their coach is better at executing what they need to do. And all of that can be done regardless of whether you weigh 300 pounds or 150 pounds, because what you look like does not necessarily play a significant role in your ability to get those results in someone else. So that's the bottom line of my opinion on that. But let's add in something, because this is an important but. From a business standpoint, it is very important to look the part, or maybe very important is too strong of a word, but I think we need to acknowledge that there are several people who are probably going to not want to hire a trainer that looks to be excessively out of shape. And I think we just need to acknowledge that I think that that's true more often than not. Might not be true in every case, but I think it's true more often than not. So if you care about making a good impression, and if you care about earning more money, I think it's a good idea to some extent look the part.
Well, it's one
Does
of those.
that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where, like, why wouldn't you? And I get the reasons why you wouldn't, but the larger population, I would say, generally would want a trainer that they want to look like, more or less. And I mean, it's not going to mean that they can't train you, but again, in the business aspect of it, you're going to lose some people in the woodworks that maybe you could have helped had you been in shape. And I guess if you took that perspective, maybe you help more people by looking better, then that's a stone you definitely want to flip over and attack.
I agree. I'm 100% agree with that. I just object to this notion that
absolutely.
people deliver it like it's your responsibility and that you must not be a good coach if you're not in shape. And I think that's bullshit.
Look at Chico.
I'll use and also being in good shape is completely subjective, because I'll name someone who is by no means unhealthy physically. Like they're not, there's nothing obviously out of shape about them. But let's use this as an example. Lyle McDonald is, in my opinion, would probably be one of the best in terms of the knowledge that they have. And if you're looking to get jacked, it could be very easy to look at Lyle's physique and possibly conclude, hey, this guy's not jacked. This guy doesn't deadlift 600 pounds. This guy doesn't squat 500 pounds. He's probably not going to know how to coach me. Well, if you have that attitude, you're potentially missing out on someone who would be probably incredible at doing that. And so that's just one
another example, throwing it out there, Dr. Stuart McGill. He's old and skinny. He's Canadian. He's got glasses, and he is now kind of inserted himself in that CrossFit powerlifting world. And there's no way that dude fucking deadlifts even 500 pounds. And people respect him, and he's a good coach. So is he stupid because he doesn't deadlift 500 pounds? Or do you have to respect that maybe he knows a fucking thing or two?
There's tons of knowledge out there encased in people who, don't look like the most jacked people in the entire world. One of my key thoughts on the whole thing is when it comes to new trainers, newer people who are really trying and perhaps struggling a little bit with the business. If you are visibly out of shape and you are struggling, you're really trying to build your business. And Patrick, this is more or less something that you kind of said. I think it's in your best interest to really make an effort there. It's going to give you a massive advantage. And if you are visibly out of shape, you put yourself at a big disadvantage. I think when we take the opposing attitude where they really dig in their heels, like, oh, it doesn't matter and all this sort of stuff. Well, okay, that's fine. You can believe that. And you know what? Deep down, that's right. But people still are judgmental creatures all too often. Just make the effort to give yourself every advantage if you really do want to be successful. But no, I hope people also understand too, there are brilliant people out there who do not look the way that maybe you want to look.
Well, even if you look at Patrick versus you, man.
Actually, Patrick's a pretty jacked dude.
I won't know, but I want to get big. I'm going to go to Andrew.
If you go online and you look at pictures of Patrick, you got some pretty ripped pictures, and you move some serious weight for your body weight too. In fact, strength to body weight ratio, you are stronger than I am. I'm a really heavy guy at 255.
You got to sell yourself, man. Be like, Patrick got nothing on me. Fucking 40 times bigger. Got nicer red hair.
More like 70 pounds.
At this point, I'm looking at the video. He's got a better trim beard. Like, come on, Andrew, sell yourself.
You were correct about all the physical properties, but when you start comparing beards, I will take you down, son. I'm just kidding.
Man, I think Andrew groomed his today.
No,
did you groom yours, Patrick?
No, hell no.
Exactly.
I got shit to do. I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's move on. And actually, this kind of goes towards, I guess, being opinionated. It's kind of around the interwebs. You have no tolerance for negative shit towards other people within your group or within society, which is a fair thing to, I guess, hold on to. Would you give us a window into how that sort of behavior kind of resonates with you, and why do you act the way you do towards it?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's talk about how I act towards it, because sometimes I'm not necessarily proud of that. It came up a little bit, I think, on Andy's podcast. I don't know if it made the final cut or not, but we had a little conversation about it that I think is worth repeating. And that's that I tend to have a really low tolerance for bullshit in terms of people either being just deliberately pricks to each other, like personally attacking each other in my group, or making statements that are, bigoted or just very vocally against, someone's race or someone's sexual preference or something like that. Things that delve into that territory, I just have no patience for it. And the other thing is when people treat my moderators like shit. So if let's just say someone violates a rule and a moderator and they always are polite in when they give out warnings. And so a moderator comes in and warns the person. I've seen plenty of cases where the person will just start talking shit to the mod. And like when that happens, sometimes I lose it. And I'm not really proud of that fact. Like I wish I could be a little more diplomatic, but sometimes I'm just like, I'll just start dropping F-bombs on someone and just,
that's the one thing I listen to. So again, if you haven't listened to Andy Morgan's, go listen to it. Like you're like, I said a few F-bombs. Like, what did you, I just want to know, what did you say? And like, if you can't repeat it, fair enough.
I don't remember exactly.
You're like, man, you're a fucking asshole. You're going to fucking die in hell. And like, what did you say anything crazy?
I would never tell someone I hope they die. Like I draw the line somewhere, but I've dropped F-bombs on someone and, it's like, it happens. Like,
I'm going to get your IP and show up at your house. You're done, man.
It's nothing like that, but it's just like, I just have no patience for it. And so like at some point I just kind of snap and I'm just like, you're a fucking douchebag. And don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And then I'll boot them out. And sometimes I'll even reply and say, here's a good example of how not to treat my moderators in this group. Have a nice day. And the good news is this, like the majority of the people in the Eat, Train, Progress group, like they do very well and people get along great. And, I know that some people it's not a good fit for. There are some people who want to be able to just say anything they want and not have any consequences to it. There are people who will think that the group is way too tightly moderated. I understand that. I don't have an issue with people having that opinion. It's just not the group for you if that's the case. I don't mean to go on a big tangent there, but like
it's interesting because as those things grow, like there's 14,000 people. Percentages are going to play into effect here. Like you're going to get some shit bags, and then there's going to be more because your group's bigger. Like I would say that to not tightly moderate it could, I guess, tarnish your brand in a sense. Like if you let a bunch of fucking idiots run around.
Absolutely. And like, that's something that fortunately my moderators actually pointed that out because I don't remember what the incident was, but there was a case where we kind of had to sit down and chat it out. And I'm like, I said, one thing I worry about is that could we be over moderating? And they both said, look, the group is getting bigger and bigger at like an astronomical rate. You don't need less moderation when this happens. You need more. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I'm very glad I listened to them because if I didn't, I think that the group would kind of be a shit show by now.
There's a really good analogy that I've always liked. So most people won't know this, but I actually worked for several years as a poker dealer, professional poker dealer, poker supervisor.
Nice.
So yeah, no kidding. So I have my history with cards too. And one of the things I was believed in, I took my job seriously. And when I was dealing poker, you often see a lot of players who they're table bullies, they're aggressive, and they make the experience less pleasant for everyone else. So I always believed in being very aggressive and professional, but aggressive in controlling that one person. Yeah. That occasionally led to complaints against me from the type of person who, of course, usually is a fragile ego, usually is that insecure bully type. Yep. But what I did is I always held the respect of the other 9 people at the table. When dealers do not control that bully, what ultimately happens, those players, they quietly disappear and they complain. They don't respect the dealer. So maybe in that moment, it's less uncomfortable for the dealer to deal with that problem. But the overall experience of the table, the room, the reputation of everything suffers. And those bullies basically win. And I see that when I worked in a commercial gym. I was very proactive in dealing with problem personalities in there to the point of making sure they were removed from the facility. And those are the same people who run to the managers and whine and complain and twist stories and make shit up. And I've been sitting down in an office with a manager dealing with a complaint against me because of something where it was some member who was sexually harassing someone else or just generally some really horrendous etiquette that I dealt with extremely professionally. And 99 times out of 100, there was never a complaint about how I solved all of these problems, but there's always that one time. And here I am explaining this shit. I'm like, guys, like you got to see all of the the good that's coming out of this. So I think that goes back to what you're talking about with the group. And if you let freedom reign and all this chaos happen, it will eventually degenerate the essence of the group. And then people are gonna be like, this place is a shit show. I don't want to be here.
I totally agree. I'm right on board with you. And like, as far as, where we draw the line, it's just like, people can drop F-bombs if they want. Like, we're not policing, what people say so much, but if what they say starts to either drive into like the personal attack territory, or if they start disparaging groups of people, like I'll give you an extreme example that hasn't happened yet, fortunately, but like if someone started like dropping racial slurs or something like that, even if it's not a personal attack on an individual, like we would squash that shit immediately. Like you're gone for obvious reasons. Like we just wouldn't put up with that. And so people like to say this thing about like, well, you shouldn't be so PC and people shouldn't have to watch what they say. And it's like bullshit. There are certain things where it's like, you're just being a dick. And if you're being a dick, you don't belong in this group. And that's just, it's actually a rule we have, DBAD. Don't be a dick.
Well, it's a pretty simple rule. It's like, even when I was balancing, it was like, idiots will always be idiots. Like, that's just the rule of a group. Don't be a fucking idiot. And like, if you don't know what that is, you're probably an idiot. You're probably going to act
very,
up.
very good point. That's a very good point. Like it's. So I don't know. I get kind of animated about it because it frustrates the shit out of me, because it's just like, how hard is it to just be like, hey, just treat each other with some baseline level of, even if you don't call it respect, just be courteous with how you communicate with people and don't be an asshole. And that's not that hard of a thing. But I guess if you're an asshole, it is that hard.
Well, and usually they can run free in the world and be assholes and see no, I guess, blowback. But if you're an asshole, why would you join a group that says not to be an asshole and they get mad when they call you an asshole and kick you out? Like, it makes no fucking sense. Like, and it happens all the time.
Well, it's kind of the same reason why we might join like, Vani Hari, the Food Babes page, and then just go in there and start causing trouble because we think those people are idiots. But it's just on the inverse side of the equation. Oh, but there's so many places where you can there's so many toilets all over the internet. So you can go into Reddit's a great place, and just the stupidity you're going to see there. So if you really are hell bent on that kind of crap, go and do it there and like make Train Progress something positive.
That's a fantastic point. And what's funny is that I've literally said almost those exact words to people. Either when they get booted or after they get booted, and then I find them on the internet somewhere else bitching about E-Train Progress, the group that they love that they now think is a piece of shit because they were the ones that got kicked out because they were, obviously breaking the rules, and when warned, they decided to ignore it.
You got kicked out of a Facebook group, man. Like Jesus.
Right? Like, that's the thing. Here's the part that's ironic. There was a situation, there's been a few of them actually, where someone likes the group, they end up violating a rule, they get warned, and then they talk shit to my moderators. I lose my cool and I drop some F-bombs on them, and then I kick them out. And then they show up somewhere else on Facebook complaining about it and talking about how, this group is the biggest pile of shit. And the thing that's ironic is that before getting kicked out, there's been multiple instances of this where they call people snowflakes, or they say you're easily offended, or you're being a bitch, or whatever word to imply that the problem isn't their behavior. The problem is that everyone else needs thick skin. But then they're the ones crying about it on a different thread in Facebook. And it's just like, exactly as you said, you got kicked out of a Facebook group, and now you're going to spend another hour whining about it on Facebook somewhere else. So, who's being the bitch here?
And who you're friends with. Like, if my friend posted that they hate this group, they got kicked out, I'd be like, man, how do you get kicked out of a Facebook group? Like, that's borderline impossible unless you're a fucking idiot. Like, I don't know. Like, they must surround themselves with some stupid people who are like, yeah, fuck E-Train and Progress.
All right. So speaking of people that you kicked out of E-Train Progress, when we were at the fitness summit, there was a lot of jokes, a lot of references to Mark Shields and you from all the presenters. So you guys seem to be kind of like stars within that community. So what is all that about? And how did he get his ass panned?
And explain who Mark Shields is, just for our audience, for the people who don't know, and then tell us why you laid the whooping on them.
Can you repeat that first part, Dean, of what you just said?
I was going to say, let our audience know who Mark Shields is, just because some people aren't going to know, and then let us know how you dropped the hammer and why.
Okay, so first of all, Mark is a friend of mine on Facebook, and he is a very skilled and very funny troll. He says some incredibly hilarious shit repeatedly. And so despite kicking Mark out of the group. I like him a lot. I chat with him every year at the fitness summit, and he genuinely is a good dude. And so, and I am also not letting him back in the group. But having said that, so I do like Mark. The reason he got kicked out was that he was being just how he normally is, a funny troll. And I don't remember the exact dialogue, but he ended up pushing it a bit far with his trolling. And one of the moderators gave him a polite warning. And in my opinion, he was pretty rude to her on multiple exchanges. And I actually had more patience than normal. If this were to happen and it was not my friend doing it, I would have just fucking booted him immediately, and that would have been the end of it. Because I do not put up with my moderators are my friends, they're my clients, and they are volunteers, and I will not put up with people, personally attacking them or just being douches to them. And that's what he was doing. Now, he was being funny. It's just that he did not let up. And at the point that he got multiple warnings and just kept doing it, I just said, well, I got to boot Shields. And what was hilarious about it is that he then posted on his wall, and the post was like, I just want you to know I don't care. I got booted from this Facebook group, but it's not a big deal. I don't care. And like 2 hours later, they're still talking about it. And I'm like, oh, you don't care, but I'll just spend 2 hours of my time talking about it on Facebook on my own wall. So I occasionally go to his wall and troll him about that and repeatedly bring it up. And I just did in the past week. I wrote something like, remember that time I kicked you out of Facebook on my group? That was awesome.
We'll have to make sure you slip it to him that we talked
no
about.
No F-bombs, though. You fucking idiot.
And the thing is, like, my moderators were pretty pissed at him, and rightfully so, because he just did not know when to let up. And again, that's another thing where it's like you could sit there and go, oh, well, the moderators are a bunch of snowflakes. Well, blah, blah, blah. They just need thicker skin. It's like, no, you just need to quit being a douchebag.
Yeah, easy.
So, and I'm not saying that about Mark in particular. I'm saying that about anyone. It's like,
Mark, if you're listening, you're bad.
Right.
You're bad. Dude.
No, seriously, though. I like Mark a lot. He is genuinely a good dude. And I'm glad that I'm friends with him. And, there's no hard feelings over it. And here's something else funny that I think's hilarious. He never even joined the group. I added him to the group. Like,
you added him and kicked him out.
And so I even joked about it. There's been a couple threads where I go, God, I'm going to add Mark Shields in just so I can kick him out again. So
I give it and I take it away.
Well, shit, I actually did just the same sort of thing. I recently created a small group for kind of a mentorship for a lot of the trainers that I talk to who are trying to develop themselves in this business. So I was having all these one-on-one conversations. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to put these all together. And I posted on social media, and then a whole bunch of people like, hey, I want to get at it too. So I also grabbed a bunch of people that I knew would be interested. So I threw a bunch of people in. So an old friend of mine gets in there, and immediately he posts a very technical question about nutrition. Like, we're talking shit that he probably should go and message a Lyle McDonald for. And it's definitely even above my head. So I gave him an answer, and I sort of countered a couple of things that he said. So kind of went back and forth. And then he just very abruptly said, oh, good luck with this group. It's a bit too dogmatic for me. And he peaced out. And I'm like, what the hell? So I messaged him. And so, of course, what had happened is, and he's a good friend. He's an old friend, but he tends to creep over into the conversation we had. Oh, if he's listening to this, he's going to be pissed, but fuck it, who cares? A bit more about like the questioning the motives and the bias and the financial stuff with research. And we know where that sort of rabbit hole starts to go. That's creeping into a little deeper into that paranoid conspiracy theorist type of stuff. And it's not full blown anti-vax, but it's some of the same sort of logic. So we had a little bit of back and forth, and we found a lot of common ground, but there was definitely a few places where it's like, okay, I know that I'm not going to go for what he's saying, but to suggest that I'm really dogmatic, I found kind of funny. Made me think about it, of course, but he just basically got in there, asked something that was completely outside the scope of the group, didn't necessarily like the response, didn't go and take anything else from it, and they just sort of made a disrespectful post and pieced right out. I'm like, okay, yeah, see ya. But I was the one who added him in the first place. So.
You fucked up, man.
Yeah.
I have to just touch on that point. We have something that one of my mods came up with. She called it the flounce announce, where it's when we get someone that says, well, screw this group, I'm leaving. And so now we have a new hidden rule that if someone says that and they don't leave, we give them like 5 minutes and then we just kick them out. And so
good.
That's happened so many times. That. It's really funny where someone's like, well, this group sucks, I'm not sticking around. And then we'd see like 2 hours later, they're still posting. And it's like, wait a second. You said you were going to leave and you haven't left yet. So it's just kind of funny. And then we post a meme of an airplane taking off because like they're going to take off.
See, that stuff we're not there yet. We're talking about a lot of, I don't even want to say negativity. I would say other people are being negative. But within the fitness industry, there is a lot of negativity. So with all these great things happening and that you see happening, what positive impact are we collectively making? So I'm talking fitness professionals, online coaches, the people are trying to do well by people and their health.
So what positive impacts do you think that we're making?
Outside of the negative shit that you normally hear, like the Kardashians and fucking Jillian Michaels and all that other bullshit.
Yeah, from my own personal experience, I can tell you that on not quite a daily basis, but at least a weekly basis, I have someone who I don't interact with either ever or often will reach out to me on Facebook and send me a private message and thank me for how much they enjoy the Eat, Train, Progress group. They will thank me for providing a community that they feel comfortable talking in. They will thank me for the information that gets posted sometimes. And sometimes they'll just say this group is so fun because sometimes people post, memes and just silly, ridiculous stuff. And so I think in one respect, that's not necessarily coaching, so to speak, but I think that we can have a positive impact on just someone's online experience. And I think from a coaching standpoint, I think some of the benefits that we can provide as coaches are some of the fairly obvious ones that you would help people with. And that would just be like improving their fitness levels, maybe improving their habits, maybe improving if you help them with things like the quality of their sleep or something like that. I think that we can really make an impact on just improving the quality of life of the people that we work with. And then I think in the larger scope, this kind of goes back to the internet thing, but I think there's some fitness professionals that have helped thousands of people through the reach that they have in just the spreading of good information. And to use one example, I think Alan Aragon would be a very good example because I know that for me, he was instrumental in me becoming an online coach and in just kind of putting out good information because he was one of the first people I found who was really, I'll use the term evidence-based, and really changed a lot of my dogmatic views. And if you think about it, I've heard of several other coaches who have said the same thing, that like Alan was just instrumental in them becoming an online coach and falling in love with that kind of a thing. And so when you think about all the people that those coaches have reached, and then you think about that so much of this can get traced back to him, and there's probably many other examples of other figures in the industry that have that same effect. I think it's kind of scary to think about the reach that you could have as an individual. And so I would imagine that's got to feel pretty good.
That probably goes back to the question I asked earlier about, the Kansas City Fitness Summit and how it benefits people with more and more people getting into this environment and learning from the best. And Alan, he's the headline presenter pretty much every year and just an amazing dude. Guys, go and search Alan Aragon, follow him. He puts out tons of great stuff. That trickle down effect, I hope, continues. I'm planning on bringing several people this year to Kansas City. I presume you're going to be there. I'm trying to get Dean to make sure he can go. He's going to be coming back from some sort of vacation right around the same time. So if I can bring a group of people and expose them to that world, well, maybe that really benefits them, because my year took off in a big way after going to that event, because it just opened me up to a lot of things. And look at us now. We have this podcast. We're all talking. And I don't think any of that probably would have come out of this if I probably hadn't had that experience or been spending time around or following people like Alan Aragon and so many other names that we mentioned. So
absolutely.
All right. So books. We
Andrew reads a lot of books,
asking this question.
Nice.
I'm kind of known for chewing through books pretty fast. So what are you reading or what's a pretty memorable book you think that people really should probably check out?
I do very little book reading, and it's to a point that it's embarrassing, meaning like I can tell you the books that the book right now that I'm going through is Stephen Guyenet's The Hungry Brain. And I am not very far into the book. I've owned it for a while, and it just speaks to me not reading nearly as much as I should. I'm a huge fan of Guyenet's material. And, I've read a lot of his blog posts, and I've listened to several of his, he's been on a few podcasts. And so, but just a huge fan of his approach. And so, the little that I've read of that and the stuff that I've read from him online, I think is fantastic. As far as what I've been reading, if I take the time to read, it's usually other fitness professionals' material online. I am a subscriber to the Mass research review by Greg Knuckles, Eric Helms, and Mike Zerdos. It is fantastic. I'm a member of James Krieger's Weightology service, and I'm a longtime member of Alan Aragon's research review. And so the majority of my reading time is spent on those particular things because I consider them incredibly high quality and very beneficial to me as a coach. And so, those are the things.
Did you ever read any fiction books growing up? Like, what was your favorite one growing up? I had to read some book at some point. So I got
I really did not, but if I had to, let me see if I can remember the title. There was a Dungeons and Dragons series they were very thick paperback books. It was the Dragonlance Chronicles, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
And I read some of those books, and I enjoyed those a great deal.
You may have just earned some new fans now. Hey?
Yeah, buddy.
See, that's why we asked that, man.
I used to play Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I was a big into that.
So did I. Love that stuff.
His dad, it was on our first podcast. His dad took away his Dungeons and Dragons book because he thought it was like calling demons or something.
Oh, one of my aunts
I remember
was like
that. I remember like a lot of people thinking that like it was this evil thing, but I thought it was incredibly creative and very fun. And now I know adults that play it, and I'm like, that's cool because especially like
there's a lot.
Andrew, I don't know what your experience was, but growing up with that, like, at least in the like kind of early teens, if you did that, like you were the nerd and you got made fun of. Whereas
totally. Well, I grew up in a small town of like 500 people in northern Newfoundland, which is not something that not everybody knows. So, and all the rest of the kids were out like actually quite literally, like I think 3 of them would sniff gas on the weekends and come home and brag about it, or they were off skidooing and hunting and rabbit snaring and fishing and all these other sort of things. And some of that stuff's cool, and the sniffing gas part isn't. But yeah, I didn't really fit in there.
Have you tried it?
So
you can't. Don't judge, man.
Quite literally,
don't
no.
knock until you try it.
And but anyway, so yeah, I just stay at home and play video games, stuff like Ultima and Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy and all the old stuff, Edward.
Dragon Warrior on the original Nintendo.
Yeah, like number one. Like you and I are probably close to the same age, so we remember those old games. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest? Like I remember being 8 years old and getting the first Nintendo NES and like Super Mario Brothers.
Fuck.
It's like
you guys are old, man. I'm like just turning 30 this like in a week. And so like,
yeah, we're straddling 40. So you missed out on a golden era of video games.
I will touch on this though, like Dungeons and Dragons, like it's getting bigger just because it's cool to be, I want to say nerdy. And like it's getting huge, man. We missed
Harry Potter is mainstream culture now. Lord of the Rings is huge. You have all these other sort of like, Twilight is kind of stupid, but I mean, it's all of those kinds of books. Comic book movies are the biggest thing ever. It is cool to be into comics. It is a great time to be a part of nerd culture, and it is definitely now more accepted in the mainstream. So
you guys are all nerds.
I think the days of looking at, look at this fucking idiot. He's like reading comic books and playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think those days are over. And it's really, really cool that, there's no more being ostracized for enjoying that stuff. But I actually just kind of kept it to myself. So no one really kind of knew what I was doing. And it was just me. That was it.
We got to tie this into fitness somehow. We got to make a group for, I don't want to say nerds, but Dungeons and Dragons and fitness. Like, that's big, man.
Comic books and curls. There's your group name right there.
Fuck yeah. Patrick's like, no.
What did you say? What was the name?
Comic books and curls.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah, I hate those like caffeine in kilos and deadlifts and donuts. I actually kind of hate that alliteration in the names of stuff because I know it's really popular. So it's like, fuck. So
it could be a stupid name like Eat, Train, and Progress. Like so basic. Like who the fuck would come up with that?
Right.
Come on, like at least be like Pump, Dump, and Hump, right?
Or something more like viral, like just eat good, train, and progress. And then you got big. Like, what the hell, man?
I know. I think about that. I go, man, I should have come up with a better name, but I got 14,000 people now. I can't change it. So we're stuck with it.
You're stuck with it.
So actually, great segue. So obviously there's the Facebook group, Eat, Train, Progress. Where else can our audience find you?
Right now, that is the best place. That's where I do the vast majority of my interactions.
Yeah.
I have a website for Eat, Train, Progress that is not completed yet, but I've got a couple of mock-ups that are now done. It is essentially paid for and being put together as we speak. And I would imagine, if I had to guess, it'll probably be up in 1 to 2 weeks.
Nice.
And so,
do you have and this is going to be weird, but like, and maybe it's something that you should have if you don't. Do you have a Snapchat channel where you perform your magic or something like more YouTube-ish where like we can see Patrick do magic?
I don't. And I don't like magic to be viewed on something that can be replayed over and over again. I think that it's fine in that as a magician, you need to be technically sharp and competent enough that things can withstand multiple viewings, but it's not my preferred way to deliver that source of entertainment.
What about, I'll challenge that. What about live feed where you don't save it after? Like that could be big.
That's an interesting idea. I've never thought of that.
Just throwing it out there. Like you have a group, Facebook's huge, the biggest platform. Live, as long as you don't hit save after and let people watch it, like that could be big for you, man.
That's interesting. That's a good idea.
Just credit me when you do it.
Yeah.
Once.
I will consider that. I'm also on Instagram at Eat Train Progress. I've had the intentions of building my Instagram by posting more often. I don't post very often. I do have some content on there, and I may get back to it at some point. I still use it because clients will sometimes use that as their method of delivering videos to me. So they'll tag me, and I'll go on there to watch their videos. So, but I am on there, and I welcome people to follow me there. I do enjoy talking to people. So if anyone wants to reach out to me just by messaging me on Facebook, I welcome that. But yeah, I think Facebook would be the number one way to get my attention.
Well, it kind of goes to the whole idea that a lot of these conversations I have with new trainers coming up who are trying to gain audience and be more successful. Pick one thing that you do extremely well and really focus your energy on it, 1 to 2 platforms. And you've done a wonderful job of that with this group. So I really do encourage people to go there. So I guess this is a big thank you to you, Patrick, for coming on. I was really excited to do this one. This was awesome. We have a bunch of mandatory shit for our audience now. So this shit isn't negotiable. So you guys got to go fucking do this stuff. First of all, go join Eat, Train, Progress, check out Patrick, and, please subscribe to our podcast. If you're Patrick's fan who found this, we'd love a few more subscribers. We're going to do great stuff going forward. We've already had some great episodes. So check out some of our other episodes. Guys, 5-star ratings are amazing. We appreciate those. You can like our Facebook page, The Fitness Devil. And we want you to share this with friends. And
basically that was our call to action. Like, you know what? You're gonna listen to this fucking episode. Do some things, okay? That's all we ask.
Yeah,
it's for free.
Buddy, do it.
Exactly. Patrick says do it, so fucking
do it.
Go.
Do it.
And guys, most of all, thanks for listening. And Patrick, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, dude.